Okay. Good evening, everybody. Call to order the Economic Development and Planning Committee. We have any discussion before we start? Nothing to discuss. We have, your notes will show two presentations. We actually have a third presentation that we're going to squeeze in between. The first presentation is going to be from Leroy Engineers. So anytime you're ready, if you'd like to start.
Where do you
You're gonna,
Right up to the podium.
Right at the podium? So, on behalf of Lero and Floyd Albert and the rest of our design team, we thank you for having us here. We are here to show you the preliminary design of the new shared services facility. We are, just a little background, we are meeting every 2 weeks with the team, with the design team and the county team, which has been phenomenal. Having the input from Eric and Ken and Matt and Megan has been a dream come true, because typically we get to the process, and this makes the process go so much smoother when everybody bought into and working together collectively for the design. We know that we are tasked with the budget. We have a budget to meet, which is right now $8 million, which we feel confident that we will have no problem meeting the budget. And as we get closer, we always set up our project so we have alternates in the event we want to add or deduct something, that we want to continue on with the progress and have that with our included in our bid documents, so that we could, naturally makes it easier if we do come really tight to the budget, or if we want to do something, we have a budget surplus, we can add items to it too. We are looking to use the local economy vendors. We've talked about the local lift manufacturer, local window manufacturer, so we like to keep basically, because this is a new building design, we have the ability to include all these, into our design, all these local vendors, which makes it great for coordination too. If you can you can physically go to the plant or go to the supplier that's in town, it'll help in the long run. So I'm gonna just turn it over to Michael, and if you have any questions during the PowerPoint presentation, you do have PDFs, the documents in front of you, hard copies in front of you. Please stop and ask a question. We'll go through it, starting with the building. We all know that it's located at the town of Glen, and I want to mention that the town of Glen, John, the supervisor, comes to our meetings and is actively involved with us. So it's been a collective, cooperative effort between all the parties involved. We are set to. This week we sent the preliminary design to the town of Glen planning board, just to start getting their initial review, and then we are on the agenda for the September meeting. Yep. I can't remember, in summer's almost going pretty fast, so the September meeting to basically do a full presentation. So I'll turn it over to Michael Bray from Foyt, and he's done a phenomenal job with the design. He's our lead architect, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Greg, very much. If you could all turn to page 2, I just want to kind of orient everybody to the purpose of really what this project's all about and why we're doing it. On the northwest corner is actually the village of Fonda, and that is where the current DPW offices are, as well as the business development offices. So right in the village, kind of splitting it up in half. So actually this relocation to the southeast corner of that plant along 5S and Glen, it's a really good move on the Montgomery County part. They were just trying to get everybody oriented in terms of where the 90 is and Route 5 and 5S on that second page. You can turn right to the next page if you like. That's going to be our site layout plan. This is a preliminary site layout plan. We're orienting the length of the building along 5S. It'll be addressing 5S with, I'm going to call it the back of the building, but this really is a 4-sided building. We're going to aesthetically treat this building appropriately so that it doesn't look like a large barn. We also have to obviously pay attention to the budget of this project. So everything that Lero and Floyd Albert, all the decisions we're making are very budget conscious. We know that we're trying to meet an $8 million budget. The approach to this building is utilizing pre-engineered structure, clear span frames basically for the entire building. However, higher efficiency insulation, higher efficiency lighting, daylight harvesting, which will be evident later on in the presentation, and also minimizing our impact on the site. So, we don't want to just pave this whole thing with blacktop. We're going to be very conscious about how much pavement we really need, stone areas, things like that, so that this building isn't just this large impermeable area. You can go right to the next slide. Thank you. So the color-coded plan that we've incorporated into this illustrates our approach as to how we're organizing the building. So from left to right on the page, business development is actually the first building you encounter if you're coming in as a new business or potential business to meet with the county. The second portion of that office part of the building on the left is the DPW administration. That's separated by basically what we're calling a breezeway, but it's really just another entrance, which is both for the DPW offices as well as the employees for the maintenance facility and the DPW itself. And then after that, in the darker green, that's actually employee support areas. That's got men's and women's lockers. There's uniform areas in there, a large break room. The yellow portion that you see in near the middle of the building is actually sign production. So we'll be producing our own signs in the facility. The pink is all mechanical and electrical spaces as well as fire protection. The blue in the middle of the right portion of the building is the supervisor's truck area as well as deliveries. And then the orange is a large mechanics bay. They'll have some existing and some new equipment relocated in there. Above that is part storage in gray, and then the last bay in purple is the wash bay. Go right to the next slide.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure, please.
Why wouldn't you have ingress and egress out of the vehicle garages
It's a really good question.
rather than backing out large vehicles?
That's an excellent question. That was sort of part of the process of trying to figure out how to minimize the pavement while also still allowing those maintenance folks or the mechanics to be comfortable with the way that they function now. Currently, they have less overhead doors on their building than this building does, and they are okay with backing out. So we were giving Eric's team that option, but they said there's no problem, we can absolutely back out or back in. It really depends on how they're gonna work on the vehicle. And what that also helped with is that immediate adjacency, so the parts storage is right off the mechanics bay instead of kind of far away, so it's centered, and it serves the mechanics a lot better. There's some tire storage in there and fluids and everything, so it's all very adjacent in terms of the programming.
But the wash bay will be in and out.
That is an in and out.
That's a drive-through.
Into the
Yes.
gravel park.
Yeah, so you'll be passing the building on the site, driving around the east side, going in the rear of the building, and then pulling out the front again, all clean. So you're keeping the dirty in the back and the clean in the front.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the plan while we're here? Okay, the next bunch of slides are actually just more of an aesthetic presentation for you, just so that you can see how we're approaching this building's design. Again, it is a pre-engineered structure, a clear span frame, but we are basically aesthetically treating this as a very important piece of architecture and a real change for Montgomery County, and something that you can be very proud of. So overall, what you're seeing here on the very left side is where the parts storage building is, along with the maintenance building, and then on the right side is the business development and DPW offices. And you can kind of see some things going on the roof, and I'll explain those as we get a little closer to the building. Something that we are planning on doing again is addressing the onlookers from Route 5S. We're going to put the Montgomery logo or Montgomery motto on the building in very large letters. And then this is actually a view between the two buildings here where the break room area is. We're probably going to be providing a door out there as well so that you can get outside from the break room. The guys can get some fresh air or have a smoke, whichever. You can go to the next slide, sure. Thanks. And then this is actually the side of the part storage, the gable end, where we plan on placing a large Montgomery logo along with the lettering, just to advertise that this is part of Montgomery County. Can you go back to that slide now, Cheryl? Thanks. Regarding your question, for the wash bay, that's actually the indoor for the wash bay on the left side there.
And then you have
And then there's an out on the other side.
and you've got an overhead door on the parts.
That's correct,
For
yeah, that's
deliveries?
for the full deliveries, the tires, everything comes right into that side of the building.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sheriff. This next slide is actually a view of how anyone who's approaching this building for business or the DPW will start to really experience the building and its nature. We're trying to warm it up and soften it. You can see the clear story lights that are on the top roof area, and then the bump up that's on the right-hand side is actually the vestibule and the entrance and the reception area for the business building office.
Is that a cooling tower behind the?
Yeah, there's going to be a large mechanical unit in the back corner. We are going to screen that somehow, whether it's with louvers or something more aesthetic. It might even just be natural trees or shrubs. We haven't made that decision yet. That's a very good question. But I wanted to show that so that it wasn't unexpected and the reality hit.
Will that contain a generator, also a backup generator?
We are not planning on a backup generator only because it's not needed by code, but it is in the discussion right now. Because we don't need it for the fire pump right now. For the maintenance portion of the building will be sprinklered. So, but we have enough pressure, so we wouldn't need the backup generator for a pump. But that question has come up. The decision hasn't been fully made yet, but right now we're not planning it. It could be an alternate.
Yeah, that's what I was
As
gonna
Greg
say.
was alluding to, that which it probably will turn out to be, considering it's a large investment for the project.
We could identify the cost and see how our budget,
Thank
fit it into our budget if need be.
We can go on to the next slide, please. This is just another closer up look of that vestibule, and there's large overhangs on the south side of this building to protect the occupants from the sun. And also there's some clear story. It's not actually glass. We're going to be utilizing a translucent material which really diffuses the light very well. It's, again, I mentioned daylight harvesting earlier, so that would really shine some light into these areas. And then the daylight controls will allow all of the artificial LED lights that we're planning on using to dim down, and we won't have to spend all that energy on electricity for the building. On to the next slide, sure. Slide 10 is just showing kind of another peek around the corner. Again, you see a couple more of those clear story windows up on the roof. All 5 of the clear story windows on the roof are actually allowing natural light into the corridors of the building so that the core spaces can also have some daylight harvesting other than just the exterior windows. So those are lined right up at the corridor, and they're going to shine in natural light, which is going to be really valuable for this space. This is just a straight on shot. You can see that we're playing with some of the building forms here. There's some pilasters along the left side of the building in the DPW office. We've got brick incorporated here. The majority of the building will be a metal panel. It's actually a pre-insulated metal panel system. Goes onto the building very efficiently and serves its purpose. The windows we plan on placing in here are a fixed over awning or fixed over hopper window. We haven't made our full decision yet, but they will be spec'd as the, is it CAL? CAS-CAL windows will be the top specification in our book for that.
That's gonna be our design standard, and some of these items is the local vendors, we'll get into the list later.
Thanks. Yeah, exactly, Greg, and Leo's gonna make sure that they're involved in every step of the way, so they're expecting it. And then you can kind of start seeing on the right-hand side where the other brick is, that's actually the DPW offices. So the brick is kind of pulling you towards that entrance as well. We move on to the next slide, please. We're just giving you a closer-up shot of the windows and some of the fenestration and the detailing on the building. Those pilasters are actually going to have it's a phenolic panel. It's actually got a wood pattern on it. We're trying to soften the building a little bit, and it also carries the gutters. Instead of having a typical gutter where it comes down in 45s a couple times, we're going to have supports for the gutters, and that gives a little bit of interest to the building. That's usually not seen for a pre-engineered structure. This is just a shot of the Department of Public Works section of the office, and again, you're getting a little closer to the main entrance there. There is a door between the 2 offices that's really meant for egress, so it's kind of tucked in there, but it gives us a nice break to what would otherwise be basically the side of a barn. So the building is really coming to form through its function, which is great. Here's the DPW entrance. This is both for the employees on the main office side as well as the facility side and maintenance side. It has the same forms as the main entrance for the Montgomery County Business Development Office. And then these give slide 15 gives you a shot of what those roof clear story areas look like. and that's all the daylight harvesting. Everything on this roof is a pre-insulated metal panel, and it's continuous planes of roof, and we have verified with both our structural engineer and pre-engineered building manufacturer that all of these forms can be achieved through a pre-engineered clear span frame.
So you're gonna have the lights, the natural light above the DPW garage also for natural light?
Yeah, that's right at the next slide. I think it's number 16, Cheryl. Yeah, so this one gives you a little closer look. There is an offset ridge for that whole garage area that is gonna harvest daylight continually throughout the entire garage space, as well as the main corridor for the employees. So there'll actually be natural light coming in from the hallway as well as windows for the break room.
That's facing west though, isn't it?
That's all south, the long face of that is south. Yes, sir. And then the overhead doors will also have either 3 or 4 panels of that same type of translucent material. They won't be glass, but they'll be that same translucent material. Again, to grab that daylight and allow the light to take a break. And it's just a better, it's better for the environment and for the human occupancy as well. So you're not always in the dark. On the right side of this image, you can also get a hint of where the cold storage building is going to be located. And that's just like a large pre-engineered building, again with some, just some simple clear story lighting to give some natural light in there. But they'll be storing trucks and other equipment in that building as well.
But it'll have electric service and lighting on the inside also?
Correct, and we will be running a gas line for heat. Right. Whether now or in the future, that's part of our alternates right now. You can go on to the next slide, Cheryl. And that's just another closer up shot standing near the maintenance garage overhead doors. And we're on page 17, I'm sorry, everybody. Looking at the cold storage facility as well as the gate access into the stone layout area, which is where they would lay out all the tires and stones and other millings and things like that.
So what arrangements, right now we have ancillary supplies, if you will, guardrail, drain tile, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Are we gonna be storing those on this site, or are we gonna be keeping
Pretty sure
those
we
on
are,
the
right?
old site?
That's in the back portion of that.
We had the other side of those fences off the right-hand corner of the cold storage and directly along the tree line for pipe storage.
So the furthest point away from the street you can possibly get.
What page is that?
We also have the
Cheryl, can you go back to page 3? I think that's the site plan. We can look at that together. Yeah, number 3.
We also have a fuel island too, that the canopy
Perfect.
fuel island
Oh, yeah.
incorporated in this, and you'll see that on the site plan.
So currently, if we go back to the site plan, page 3, currently there's a drive in and a turnaround. And what we're planning on doing is expanding that turnaround, but we're gonna leave the turnaround as part of the truck process. So they have to traverse that, and so that they're not just cutting across, seas of pavement. And along the south edge of that turnaround is actually gonna be what you were just mentioning, which is the fuel facility. And then to the lowest right portion of the site, inside the fence is where we would be storing those items.
To the right of the proposed
To the
cold
right of the
storage?
proposed cold storage, yes.
End user and make sure that it works, because we could design things all day long that may not work for the end user, but the process has been going very smoothly throughout.
And we say a project doesn't evolve very well without any input from the owner. So they've been involved every step of the way, like you mentioned, every week, every 2 weeks for the last 2.5 months. And we've come to this point where we're very confident that this is a project that's going to serve them.
So would you describe this as mission critical services? Would there some other things that would make this a better project?
Well, right now, we were talking about budget earlier. Just at our last meeting, we're actually discussing with NYSERDA a certain grant that's available to this project, which could provide for a photovoltaic solar array that we can put on the south-facing portion of the maintenance garage, which would basically power all the lighting and power needs for that portion of the building. I think that's a value of around $77,000. But the grant is actually worth more than that, so engaging that grant, that money can go even further. And every mechanical system and electrical system we're placing in this building works with our daylight harvesting and our sustainability goals. This may not be a LEED certified building, but it certainly could qualify as one if we were gonna put it through the process.
Now, also, you talked about using case in the Keller Cascal windows, aluminum sashes, and Mohawk lifts. Would it be the standard? Is that what you designed it as, using Mohawk lifts as the standard?
I wouldn't put a wood window in this building. I think an aluminum window is perfect.
They will be the design standard, but because of the, naturally because of New York State procurement laws, it'd have to be,
We have got to list two
you know,
other,
and or equal.
manufacturers.
Again, we will use the design, we will use this as the design standard, but naturally,
It'd be nice to use Montgomery County
Oh,
manufacturers.
for sure. And if we can write this back to not only accept that product, and I'm perfectly comfortable with those products, but that's where the spec is going to be written around. Obviously, I have to list two other manufacturers, but I get to pick those two manufacturers. So.
All right, thank you.
That was my general question. I think we'd all be in favor of using as many Montgomery County vendors as possible. And obviously you mentioned Cascal, you had mentioned Mohawk Resources. What other providers might be on your docket to use for the project locally? Any
Currently, I've been
cement
relying on.
companies?
naturally, the local vendors will be, included in the bid process. And you have local, Cranesville and so forth, or, people that are local concrete suppliers. When we put out the bid package, what we like to do is we will kind of identify a list on all the local contractors. We actually make calls to the local people saying, okay, it's out on the street. We would, if you want to bid it, here we're having a pre-bid and kind of engage people. As many people locally that we can engage is end result is a better project for everyone.
So when you speak though of Cascal and Mohawk Resources, would those be bids as well that you'd make them aware of and hope that they are the lowest bidder, or are you just going to give that to them?
No, we can't, because of procurement laws, we can't just give it, we just can't give it to them. We have to do an and or equal. But they will be included in the bid documents. We will reach out to them and say, okay, make sure that they are aware of the project. We do advertising that with the builders exchanges will have it, the Dodge reports and all the periodicals, the construction periodicals that people get to get bidding, to do their bidding, to see the projects, I should say, will be included. And naturally we'll hope that we get the local response and everything, numbers work, that everything works from a legal standpoint. And Megan's shaking her head so she knows it.
Sort of two levels to what we're speaking about. One is the way that I specify the products within a project. So, for instance, I can call out the Cascal windows and the Mohawk equipment in my documents. The other side of it is Lero and their team to go out and talk to the local contractors who are supplying doors, who are getting the concrete here, who are doing the pre-engineered metal building, and supplying the metal panels for that, for instance. Those are the things that's the effort we're making right now to ensure that we're not just sending it out to Albany and Syracuse and Buffalo. I mean, there's going to be some local contractors involved here, and they're going to know about this project. That's really the key.
Is there any picture there that you can bring up to show us how you would incorporate the light capturing?
Not
what
in this.
facade of the building?
Is the internet hooked up? Because I can log right into our Dropbox and go and show you that if you want to see it.
I believe so.
There are some free. I can log right into my Dropbox and show everybody if you'd like to see it.
Well, yeah, I don't think we have to hold up the meeting.
Oh, it'll take 2 seconds. It's a few more images just like this.
I'm just curious.
No problem.
If not, we have the IT director here tonight.
They'd be all on the south side of the building. I mean, do they go on top of those little ridges that are catching the light into the middle of the building?
So the corridors are actually lined right up with those clear story lights, so the light will actually pour into those corridors.
Right.
You find the sign. Sorry, everybody. I'll tell you what, I will make sure that, there we are. I'll make sure that Cheryl also receive some of these images.
Almost there.
Yeah, we're almost there.
But I need to.
I'm happy to do it.
Thanks, Mike.
Well, I see all these little facades capturing light, and I'm wondering where,
Yeah, and we have a cut of the corridor, basically you'll see that.
Any other questions, legislators?
I don't know, you seem to ask them all.
Remember my 3 hours.
The new LED lights already sense this, we should have had the lights on.
That's correct. Daylighting controls are very important in any building that we construct nowadays, so there's always a light sensor in large rooms where there might be a light on all the time. It's not only an occupancy sensor, but it's also the daylight.
I told him he didn't have to, he's gonna put a big 9 right there.
Yeah,
Almost there.
I have an image that will show you exactly what I'm talking about. Right. Should be able to move it over. As soon as it comes up, yeah. Cheryl, can you zoom in on the upper left image for me?
This is 3Gs.
There.
Down at the bottom, you should be able to zoom in there. See the little plus? There you go. Keep going. There you go. So this is a section through the building at one of those clear story skylights, I'm going to call it skylight. It's really a clear story window. It's on a vertical section of the roof. So that light is going to get grabbed by that, it's like a honeycomb panel basically, and it's translucent. You can't see through it, but it's like almost a pure white. It grabs even indirect light and just shines it into the building like a lamp. And there's a full wall that goes right up behind that where the light's going to bounce all through the building. On the right-hand side is actually a shot of the boardroom, which is a 1,000-square-foot boardroom that can be split into 2. And on the left would be the offices. So there's another like Cheryl was just pulling over. There's another whole section through the building that shows kind of how the right corridor doesn't have the light until later on, but the left one has the.
Yep.
I have one more question.
Sure.
What's the HVAC?
The HVAC is under discussion right now, but currently, let's start in the maintenance garage and facilities. We're going to be combining. It's going to be radiant. It's actually overhead radiant heating. There won't be radiant floors, but it'll be overhead radiant heating along the overhead doors, and then heated or makeup air for the rest of the heating needs of the space. The offices will actually be a variable refrigerant flow system, which is basically a ductless system. There are small ducts, but it's not a forced air system. But it does heat and cool, and there's basically 4 towers in the back. They're about 4 feet tall, and that really the whole system works together to heat and cool each room individually.
Very good, thank you.
So if the secretary likes it 75 and the commissioner likes it at 65, they can have that.
You just keep your thermal.
Again, that's-
down.
It's a building efficiency thing, right? It's a sustainability. If somebody doesn't need all the energy, the unit doesn't push it out. And you're not wasting all this energy on, VAs or boxes.
Does anybody else have any questions? Thank you for your hard work. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
Next, we have a presentation by Deborah Casilia.
BRAY.
Is Deborah here?
Yeah, she is.
Hi, good evening, everybody, and thank you for having me. My name is Deb Crisali. I'm with Montgomery County Public Health. My main position is the lead coordinator for the lead poison prevention program with Montgomery County. The reason why I'm here today is because I'm here to discuss the lead hazards and concerns of Montgomery County. Not only that, but there's the New York State Department of Health is putting down new regs in the prevention for lead poisoning prevention with children under the ages of 6 and under. As you know, lead is a toxic metal that is harmful to the human health if ingested or inhaled, especially toxic to children that are 6 years of age and younger. And they are more likely than any other group of children to become poisoned because at that age, that's when they're growing the fastest, cells are developing, everything is hand to mouth. So they just like, I always say, like our working vacuum cleaners. Lead exposure has been linked to learning disabilities, learning problems, attention and behavioral issues, reduced growth, delayed puberty, lowered IQ, hyperactivity, as well as other side effects. Our main focus at Montgomery County is to work with the families of children that have a high lead level. So what we do is we try to go into the home, we try to do a visual inspection, we just try to see where the lead poisoning may be coming from at that point in time. How do you know if the child has a high lead? As of today, the blood lead level for a child to be poisoned is anything at 10 or above. So we get those lead results down from the state. They're hooked into the New York State Department of Lead Web. All the labs are hooked in with the state. The labs are uploaded, and each county gets their results. So when those results come in, anything that's a child scores from a 10 to a 14, we will go out, do the lead inspection, educate the families, try to figure out where that lead is coming from to reduce that child's blood lead level. If they go to a 15, then I would say it's not a bad thing, but it's really kind of a good thing, because then we hook up with the New York State Department of Environmental District Unit out of Herkimer, and what they'll do is they'll come with us on a home visit. The neat thing about their inspection with us is we do the education piece with the parents for the child. The state does their investigation, but they have the laser technology today to just go ahead and pinpoint exactly where that lead poisoning may be coming from. You know, at either visit, all families are educated on how to reduce that lead. As of today, we have 13 active cases of children that have lead poisoning. At one time, we had 45. Currently, we have one child who scored a 68. We have 3 children that have a score between 20 to 28. We have 2 that are scoring between 15 and 18, and I have 7 that are between 10 and 14. Aside from the active cases, we have 6 open cases. When I say open cases, that means they're environmental only, meaning the child's blood level has gone down below 10, but the state environmental department is still in there, meaning notice of demands have been issued, the properties to date have not been repaired, or the repairs have not been completed. We have 16 dormant cases, repairs that have not been completed at all, and the cases are sent to the Albany Tribune. What the state does is they give the homeowner so much time to fix it. If it's not fixed within a certain time, they send another letter, and then from there, if they don't fix it with the state recommendations, it goes to the higher courts in Albany to make sure, or see if the repairs can be done. What's happening is if the repairs are not done, they cannot rent to future families. You have one family that moves out because they don't want their families involved, with their children with that high lead. So if nobody knows that they have those open cases on environmental, then they're re-renting to other families, therefore endangering more children for more elevated lead. What we're finding out at visits is, as you know, the poverty level has increased, I think, throughout our county, increase in rundown housing conditions. We're finding that the landlords that are purchasing properties are not fixing them up. I believe in some apartments I've gone into, I don't even think they've cleaned them. I think they just purchase them, put them on the market, and say, here it is for rent. And we're also finding that either a seller or the landlords are not doing the disclosure of information, which is a disclosure stating that the house was built between a certain time period, that there may be hazards for lead paint. They're also not providing families with protect your family from lead in your home. It's a nice little booklet. It tells you if there is lead in the home, how to, damp mop, damp wipe, damp clean, get your child tested. If repairs have to be done, what they should be looking for. Another area of concern is the rental properties. Sometimes they're not up to code, and I sometimes feel like when we go in, it's always like a fighting match between public health and codes. So like codes will say it's not their problem, it's my problem that they have lead poisoning. They have to remember, yes, it is a public health problem, but my problem is the child. I work with the child and the families to reduce that blood level. I don't write the COs, I don't have, can't go in and shut a property down. So we're looking at something to be done to help bring those properties up to par. What's more disturbing is I've been in several homes over the past year. 3 of the properties that we're in, I always ask, do you get rental assistance? Do you get like any type of HUD or anything like that? Of the 3 that said no HUD, but they got rental assistance from our DSS county, okay, meaning they'll pay the rent for a year, I was told, by the DSS. So we go back to DSS and I say, we have these properties that have lead, is there something we can do before we rent these contaminated properties to families? Like, do you guys go in and do you inspect? Do you ask for a lead certificate? Do you ask for anything if there's any type of lead abatement or work that's going on? And they do not. So that is an area of concern with us too, because I have one property where it has 3 children, all 3 scores 20 and above. To date, the repairs have not been made. So we're in that little dilemma now with that family. Which leads to another circle, if they're gonna have a learning disability, language or speech delay, then they get services, which is gonna increase the coordination with our EI count, our EI or whatever program they're gonna be in for learning disabilities, and then sometimes in the future, if they have that deficit throughout life, they aren't able to hold their job, and now we're back on the system because our system has failed them from the beginning all the way into adulthood, and we just keep on that cyclical cycle. So I know we can't fix all these problems overnight, but I think we should be able to start somewhere. Any community, there's like ours, we do have tons of homes in Montgomery County that were built, before 1950. So there's always a potential for lead paint hazards, throughout the county with those. And I think right now, Montgomery County is like 62% on that list for housing built before 1950 for contaminated houses. The reason why I'm concerned and to start to put up the red flags is come October 1st of this year, the new lead level for children is now going to be dropped down to 5, meaning we're cutting it right in half. So anybody that scores a 5 or above will now have lead poison throughout the county. There is talk in the future, they're looking at 5 right now, they're already talking about lowering it to 3. So what does that mean for us if it goes to 5? Well, instead of having 20 kids per year that have lead from 10 and above, we did a cost estimate because anytime a child scores a 5 to 9, we've been sending out packets to be a little bit proactive to get everybody prepared for this new lead level that was coming down. So our cases were jumped down to 100 to 120 now per year on that basis. The state also will go out now with us on a 5. It's across the board. We used to go out at a 10, the state would go out at a 15. We all go out at a 5 now. That means that the leveling of, notice of demands will also increase. Usually we have 1 or 2 per year, so if I'm up to 120 kids per year with an elevated lead, you're gonna now have 120 notice of demands, that the properties have to be fixed, for the families to live in. Our family sizes are increasing, families are coming here. I believe if nobody's gonna fix their property, I don't think we're gonna have any room to rent for anybody, as this problem progresses. But not only that, environmental management, we do contract with Herkimer, so they're gonna increase as well. So their properties that they visit now are 1,100. Now they're gonna jump to about 18,200 cases per year. As I mentioned, it will also increase the notices of demand. It may demand an increase for Department of Social Services, CPS division as well, because the state is now enforcing if a parent neglects to have children retested after scoring a high lead, we are to phone a call into CPS. So now we're going to elevate services for CPS. Follow-up interventions, such as if the child needs special health care needs, will increase at a cost of $713 per child, and the cost for the property owner now conducive to the finding of the lead poison can range from approximately $600 to $10,000, depending on the property and how well it's maintained throughout the years. Montgomery County costs, environmental is going to jump to $245,000 per year, and nursing costs will jump to $82,000 per year.
And that's just the nursing costs. When Deb talks about the EI costs, Legislator Pep and I had a conversation in reference to our cost for EI. And one child with lead poisoning who needs a full gamut of services could cost the county $35,000 per month for one of these children for their services and transportation to services.
So going forward, in the past, and we just started this program 2 years ago, we were fortunate through the lead grant through the state of New York that they would start letting us offer the renovator right course. It's all offered to property owners, landlords, property managers. So we offer that either once or twice a year. The first year was successful, both classes were full. This year we offered it again. We will continue to offer that class every year as long as the state keeps granting us the monies to do so. We will continue to educate the families with children that have lead, educate the public as much as we can. I do a lot of rotation between the WIC sites throughout the county. We also do lead testing by finger stick at all children. At WIC, we kind of have a slogan, one stick, two tests. So I can draw off of their finger stick when we do the sticks. And they're also offered education as well. And in the educational packets, I'm now starting to do the rental disclosures because it doesn't seem like anybody's getting the rental disclosures that should be provided through the federal guidelines homeowners should be providing for the children. So no one has ever come up and shown me if they ever received or got a copy of their disclosure of information, that there's lead paint in the apartment or a possibility that there may be lead paint in the property. We also work with pregnant women who live in poor housing, rundown conditions because the lead does transfer to the fetus. So we try to stick, not that it's a slogan, but we like, we say, well, we don't want the baby to be doomed, in the womb, because of the baby's, coming out and it's got high lead. There's only one incident I know, and that's in Greene County recently. Mother had a baby, and the baby, they did a heel stick, right away on the baby, and the baby was a 5.5. So right now, the kid, it's a neurotoxin that affects the nerve tract, developing growth. So the kid doesn't have a fighting chance right out of the womb. Anyone that rents to families with children 6 and under, we would like to see, if the, they get their lead certificate that the home is safe, and like I said, the disclosure information. On Montgomery County Public Health, the DSS side, we did have a conversation, of things that we could do. One of the things was if they could give us a housing list, that would be a benefit to us and to them, because through LeadWeb, I can look up on the environmental side all houses that have been either dormant, shut down, or open cases. So if we are renting to people, they'll have firsthand saying this is already contaminated, they should not be renting to these families. Offer them, the same thing. I know there's 2 people in DSS that did take the renovator course, and I would like to see if they can inspect. I mean, if someone comes to you and says they have an apartment for rent, I think everybody would go and see that apartment for rent. But if somebody calls DSS and says, DSS says, I need an apartment, they call whoever they have on the list, but we don't inspect it. So I think we're just as guilty as a landlord for putting children in harm's way if we ourselves are not doing due diligence for families and children. Code enforcers, I know we go back and forth, but they too get a copy of the notice of demands. Maybe they can just do like on the back end, follow up for those notices of demands and say, hey, we got this, how you come in, because the state keeps them abreast of all of that too, what's coming, and if they go to Tribune into Albany. And then also too, if they can, I'm going to work with different code enforcement to educate contractors. A lot are not familiar with the EPA requirements. A lot are not lead certified, and so that's another battle that we'll have to figure out, how to work with that as well. And I'm also finding too that in my one child that was a 68, the landlord purchased the home, but was not given any disclosure information on lead hazard in the home. So maybe work with realtors at some point in time too, just to make sure that they're going forward and pushing everything out too as well, that everybody's getting the correct information. I was asked, the homeowner, what year was your house built? And they all tell me they don't know. So I'm like, oh, I think you do know, because when I bought my house, I got a little asterisk, it's built 1950, 3-bedroom, so I'm like, I know you know this stuff. So, but it's just that they never expected to have children, that would score so high, and they did not realize how that lead is still around. So for future outcomes, what we would really like to see is to, propose to the legislator to see if there's something that we can do, with the New York State regs coming down on the health departments. Maybe if we can impose like maybe an ordinance on the rental properties, have, before renting, even in our own division, start with us first. If we're gonna start renting, contracting with landlords, maybe we should ask them, is it lead safe? I mean, you can't make it lead free, but you can make it lead safe, okay? Covering up all the chips, replacing the windows if you had to. And I've even said with DSS, I'll even go on an inspection with you to see where the lead may be coming from, and we can work together. I did bring a copy of Rochester's proposal. We did do some investigation in regards to other lead ordinances through different counties. There's not very many that have it. The only one that we've come across is Rochester, Monroe County. And they started their lead program back in 2005. It officially came to fruition in 2006. Since that time, from 2006 to 2016, Monroe County has seen a 95% pass visual inspection on housing, meaning 95% of their children are now considered lead safe in housing that's provided throughout their community, throughout their county. If we probably could propose something like that, that would be great, where we would, deem necessary that any type of property only renting to families of children 6 years and under, provide that certificate before they, give the owners a certificate of occupancy. That would be a big help in the future. And, like I said, they're gonna lower it to 5 in October. It seems like every 4 to 6 years, they look at the number and they keep lowering it. It took them 10 years to lower it from 10 to 5 this year. But with that being said, now that they're finding so many learning disabilities linked to children that have lead poisoning, they really want to push it now to 3. So with that being said, it would be of best interest if our county could do something, to help protect those children as we go. And I always say, testing children, when we have parents test their children, lead poisoning gets detected after, the children have been exposed. But if we start testing and repairing the properties, that kind of prevents it altogether. So, and lead poisoning is 100% preventable. So we just have to think of a plan of how to do this and how to be better advocates for our children in our community. I also have a copy of how Rochester or Monroe County got started. How they looked at different things and what made them come up with this. Obviously they were probably more worse in the situation than we are with their housing condition, but they do have it, and like I said, they're 95% lead free now throughout their county, and I think it's doable if we all work together. We can do the same, if not more. So.
And the packet I handed out is a template that we were able to obtain. We did take out the local municipality information so that it was an easier template and we could put our own Montgomery County in there, our municipality, along with our local laws. So you do have a copy of something that we could take a look at going forward as a proposed legislative initiative.
So is it your intention to draft a potential resolution based on this? Because I think we'd all be interested in seeing something.
We certainly could. I'd have to work with our county attorney to find out what the local laws are. So it's all set. I would just need somebody to pop in the laws for if we're going to make it countywide or municipality specific.
How does the elevated lead in our water system in the city affect what you're talking about?
There is lead in our water, especially
We just
with it.
recently got a notice that it.
Right, with the city of Amsterdam. I always say if it was very high, then the whole city would be affected. But 95% of all the kids are getting poisoned actually through the house. And it's through the paint, it's through the dust. Our biggest offender is the windows. So a lot of them have that old aluminum window, and it's an older home, so you can see the lead paint all through that. So when we go in to do that inspection, I tell them right off the bat, you know, let me see your windows. So we do, and it's 95% is the windows. We did do a shoot a couple weeks ago, and there was paint on the wall, but it was peeling. Normally, lead paint does not peel, okay? This was peeling off in nice sheets. So we did the test, they did the laser, and it was scoring greater than a 12. So somewhere along that line, which was unusual, we were just surprised it was coming off in sheets and not like little squares, that there was lead paint mixed in with the walls. So now we're looking at the whole apartment for all the walls to be repainted.
So technically, the notification that we get from the city doesn't really mean that much in
The water
overall-
can be flushed through the pipes. So when you turn the water on, we tell people to leave their water running for 30 seconds to a full minute to flush on cold, to flush any kind of lead that may be picked up in the pipes, because it doesn't necessarily stick to the water, it can be flushed out of the pipes. So again, as Deb said, if there was really that high of a lead level that was unsafe, we would have adults and more people testing for higher lead levels. But since we simply don't have that problem in the city of Amsterdam, I can't speak for other municipalities because I haven't gotten those reports.
So why are they required to send that notification? Because
They
it
are
reaches a
required.
certain level?
Yes.
If it reaches a certain level, then it's deemed poison. So depending on what the water report was, and what it was.
You kind of instruct people on how to deal with that, or are you really, that's not
Yeah.
really your...
Yeah, because our main concern, like even when I go on house visits, everybody's always asking me, you know, what about our water? Our water's got lead because of the situation. And again, run your water on cold for 30 seconds to a minute, depending if you live on a first floor, second floor apartment, and then start filling up your pots and pans from
Yeah, are you
there.
like notifying people, public service?
We do a lot of public service
Yes, we
announcements,
do.
yeah.
We do PSAs, whenever we can. We have the bulletin boards out there, you know, trying to get people to get tested. Any information, call us, be glad to help you send out any information.
Does it affect children more than adults? Is that
Yes.
what you're trying to say? Also?
Yes, children 6 years of age and younger. And it's only because as children, as babies, we're growing, our cells are dividing into maturity into adults. So when we start breathing in that lead or eating that lead, it gets stored in our brain, our bone, the teeth, our liver, our kidneys. And a lot of times what we'll see is, say the child had a low lead level and all of a sudden he's turning 6 and they decide to test again and he has elevated lead. And it's only because of the growth spurt and the lead gets stored in the blood, which is also in the bone marrow. So as the bone grows, it releases, it's leaching the lead out into the system, elevating the child's lead level.
Any other questions?
Can, Megan, can you work with public health and try to figure out this dilemma that we're having with DSS with those properties to see what we can do so that we can hold the landlords a little bit more? I mean, if we start, I think the landlords are doing the minimum that they can do, and if we start saying to them, this has to be done, or we're not gonna rent to you, they'll do the work. You know, so if we maybe work on getting the list and do what we need to do.
Yeah, sure. The one apartment we're paying $950 for. I'm like, what? $950? I said, that's an awful lot of money for the little apartment. It's one little apartment with 6 little children.
Any other questions?
Would we need a local law or a resolution?
Depends on what route we would want to go on it. If we're talking about an internal policy, we could maybe do a resolution. If we want to do something that's going to apply across the county, maybe a local law. I know we started the groundwork on some of this research a little while ago, so I can pull all that up and get everything together and we can bring it.
And we have the template, it's on the computer, so it would be very easy just to pop in the information.
And if we have any questions whatsoever in going forward, if the resolution should come to fruition, we can always call Monroe County. They're very more accommodating to come meet with us, talk with us to help get this up and running on the ground.
Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you for having me.
So Sarah, is this part of your budget?
I did put in for $81,000, yes, but it's state aid reimbursable.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, next on the agenda is Toga from the Greater Mohawk Valley Land Bank.
Thanks, everyone. And I also wanted to thank all the legislators for the vote, I believe last full meeting, conveying the 4 properties to the land bank. We have a PowerPoint. That is a handout you should all have. I think that those were passed around before with 3 pages. But before we segue into that, I think this is a perfect opportunity to lead issue. To talk about some of the things that we are doing at the land bank. Currently, we have 25 properties in Montgomery County. Every property we test for lead. Every rehab we mitigate or we address that lead. And I would like to get together with you folks, at some point, because this is something that we've identified at past meetings. We are part of the Lead-Free Mohawk Valley Initiative, which is coming out of the Community Foundation in Utica. Currently, Herkimer County and Oneida County participate in this initiative. They are using one of our houses in Utica as a training site for these issues, working with GHHI, which engineered the program for Rochester. So they are actually giving this presentation, I believe, on the 26th. I can share that with Cheryl if you want to share it. Anybody is welcome to come to the county. I would encourage you to go. But we really pushed in Oneida County because there was interest, and we worked with the Community Foundation to support this lead-free initiative. And we were one of the first to come forward and say, every house that we rehab, we're going to deal with this. Because when we touch those houses, we are testing. It's about $700 per property that we're spending to test those properties. But that, as they mentioned, creates a record. So that anybody down the road can now pull up that record, and if that landlord fails to do something about that in the future, like if they disturb any of the lead, we'll usually encapsulate and the windows will mitigate. But if somebody in the future fails to disclose that and they have no children living in those apartments, there are issues and there are ramifications to that. So that's something we feel very important about. All right. So, first slide. I was definitely excited to hear that the transfer went through, but I was a little disappointed that still there seems to be some confusion about what the land bank is doing. I know this is especially true in Fort Plain and Palatine Bridge. So I did want to touch upon that, and one of the things that we had talked about with the local officials in Fort Plain and Palatine Bridge, which are overwhelmingly supportive of our efforts, is maybe doing a barbecue where Legislator Sweet, Legislator Diamond, and others could come out, see one of our projects, and walk through it and kind of see what we're doing, see how we're going above and beyond, to know that some of these projects are really seeing the investment that's required to get families in there and have them safe and secure and not worrying about these issues. Next slide, Cheryl. This is another piece of press we got recently. This is the property in behind there that we actually did the lead training at in Utica. It's 1128 Hammond Avenue. That's the Attorney General from New York State. That's me standing behind her. She announced a $9 million initiative to go after zombie properties in New York State, and she chose one of the Greater Mohawk Valley Land Bank's properties to highlight that effort. 43 communities across the state are getting these grants. We were one of the few rural communities because I and the rest of our staff advocated to the New York State Attorney General's office that rural communities deserve these grants, not just cities. I believe 40 of these grants went to cities. Hampshire got 150,000. We got 200,000. This is something that I've been in discussions with Matt and Megan. We can hire code enforcement officers that can help with zombie code enforcement. We can get something called a zombie quarterback that can help chase down these banks that are, having these properties that are not properly dealt with, not properly maintained, things like that. So I think this is something that is a positive, and it really highlights that we are really looking down the road. We're looking at outcomes and making sure that we have positive outcomes for our communities, for our rural communities that are able to access this funding from these bad actors. I included this slide just to touch upon a couple underlying portions to really just remind everyone, and I know there's this ongoing discussion of whether properties should go through the auction first, then come to us, or we get them conveyed before the auction. And what I wanted to reiterate is, these are properties, and I'll touch upon it a little bit in the presentation, but these are properties oftentimes that have gone through the auction 3 and 4 times. And in some cases, they're demolitions that, in my experience, I don't know of many people that will go to the auction and say, wow, this building is really rough. I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna buy it, I'm gonna tear it down. On the rare occasion, you'll get a neighbor that might do that wants to improve their adjacent property, but what often happens, and we dealt with this in Fultonville, where 2 people had bought a property, the same property in the 2018 auction. They paid the deposit, they went and they saw it, they're like, oh, this is a wreck. They walked away from it, they didn't pay the balance. Then they sold it again at the online auction, and the price wasn't worth the squeeze. The juice wasn't worth the squeeze, as they say. And so we see a lot of these. There's properties on Douglas Street, which Legislator Street is probably familiar with, in Fort Plain, heading out 163, that have been through the auction 5 and 6 times. They're selling for $50 to $100, over and over and over. Okay, so we are really interested in those properties where the market isn't functioning. So that's what that slide touches upon. And again, this is a slide I shared last year from NICOM, the New York Conference of Mayors. Really, the issue we're facing in Montgomery County and so many places in New York State is the supply of homes has really, it exceeds the population. So many people have moved out of the area that houses are essentially expendable. So we have all these extra houses, we have all these landlords that are, just putting people into them until the roof leaks so bad that they will leave. Then they go get another property at the auction. Next slide. And of course we've talked before about the 20% hit that a person takes when they are next door to a vacant and abandoned property. Good example, 71 West Grand Street. Paul Claiborne lives next door. It would be hard for him to sell his house. This place next door is a disaster. Literally the roof is hanging off the back, and they're really in rough shape. Next slide. So again, it's that speculation, the slumlords, which we're all very familiar with, but when they're deferring maintenance, and we're going in and trying to do these properties the right way. Next slide. The big issue is that many of these houses, to do them right, to address the lead, to address the asbestos, and do what we're doing, there's a gap in your financing. Okay, so it might cost, and what the slide is showing you, that even though your acquisition is $30,000, relatively low, you need to invest $120,000 to get the house fixed up, to address the lead, to address the asbestos, do it right, and then at the end of the day, the house is only worth $130,000. So that's where the settlement funds that we're able to use to leverage, that extra money to help get those properties back on the market. This is just an example of the point where a demolition is, where somebody's essentially going to walk away from it. It'll get to that point. Okay, it's going to be $30,000 to demo this thing, $100,000 to fix it, and they'll just leave it behind. And so what really needs to happen is we need a reduction in many of these houses, and that's part of what we're doing. Is we have an ambitious goal of demoing a lot of these properties. We're doing about 1 a week now across the region. Next slide. And what that does is by reducing the supply, that helps take away the fuel for these speculative property owners that are trying to run these boarding houses and these low quality apartment houses. Oh, that's not, keep going. No, wrong slide. Wrong place. So I just wanted to run through quickly. These are the properties, the 4 properties that we got. I just wanted to touch on where we're at right now. So that was my slide from May, I believe. So if you skip ahead, I just wanted to touch that's a picture. Keep in mind that roof, and I know we've seen this picture before. This is a Masonic temple in Fort Plain. So see that barn or garage to the right of it? It's like off-white with the 2 windows. Okay, next slide. So you may remember this slide. This is the roof of that whole building in 2014. It was torn off and we had one of those microbursts. So that was taken off, and it was estimated to be a $150,000 repair, somewhere in that neighborhood. So what happened? Okay, so the owner said, well, I don't have any property insurance. So he left town. He moved to South Carolina after this happened. Went away. So the neighbor got the tin disposed of with his homeowner policy because it was on his garage. But then volunteers, myself included, we went out and twice in 2014 and tarped the roof, just because, again, this is a key building, a downtown anchor. We knew that if the water had gotten into that building for who knows how long, it was going to destroy it. We weren't doing it for, speculative reasons or for money. We just knew that this building needed that. In 2015, the property was going into the auction. It was in tax foreclosure. So this was the first property we requested from the county. Now, it went to auction. We understand. We were new. We hadn't done anything yet, so it totally made sense. But it sold for $5,500 at that auction. 3 years later, they didn't pay a penny in taxes. So now we were able to successfully get it in this current round thanks to your help. So next two slides, you got a couple pictures of the roof when we were doing the repairs, tarping it. Okay, next property, 3 Ann Street in Fultonville. We did our assessment on this on last Monday. I believe the legislator Headwell was there. It's occupied, so we're working through some issues with that. That was not what we had expected, so Megan will be in touch. But we're potentially working with the homeowner or the former homeowner to see if we can work something out to get them back into the home, but with an agreement to get the house up to where it needs to be and correct some of the issues. But we will be in touch on that. Next slide, please. 71 West Grand, this is one of the ones that I mentioned before in Palatine Bridge. This one has gone through, well, go ahead to the next slide, I think we have. So it was foreclosed on by a bank, and then it went through the tax foreclosure auction process 2 times. This was going to be the 3rd time. So I just want to reiterate that these properties, and I again appreciate that we're conveyed them, but these aren't the cream of the crop. These are things that we want to fix and that have been through. We're not going after the winners. So next slide, you can see the back of the house. They put a rubber roof on in the middle of winter in 2018, and rubber roofing doesn't really adhere well in the cold. So you can see it around the house, but it's not on the roof. Next slide. This is the upstairs. They took out a lot of the framing to help make room for something and never got back to it. So this is one that we are planning to take down in the next month or 2. And I think that this is one that, it's going to be an easy win, good demolition, something that we can get out of the way quickly. Next slide. So this is another one. Next slide, in St. Johnsville. This was foreclosed on 2 banks in the last 10 years. And it also gone through the foreclosure process once. Our plan is likely to demo it, but if any of it is savable, it's actually 3 houses that were kind of connected together over time, I think, as the family grew. But that's another example of one that I think had definitely gone around the houses, as they say, through this process. Next slide. And I just wanted to touch on quickly, some of the positive projects, kind of the big picture projects that we're working on. And this is one of the ones I was thinking to have you down for a barbecue. In the middle of this picture, this is Hancock and State Streets in Fort Plain, Route 5S as you come into the community. We have negotiated with 2 of the 3 neighbors that own that large green section between the Thruway and State Street. And we're working with the state parks about we were already interested in doing rehabs on State Street. 5 of the 8 houses were in foreclosure in the last couple of years. So we've now acquired 3 properties in there, and we're working through those. But we said, rather than just create an isolated section of houses where they're in better shape, how can we change this from the worst neighborhood in Fort Plain to somewhere people actually want to go? And what we're doing is there's a historic Erie Canal lock towards the right. It's the first double lock in the canal system from 1840, block number 32. So we're working with the state on this proposal to make this into essentially a spur coming off the bike trail, have a historic site for the lock, so they can see that. The lock is fully intact. Guy Barton's car wash, if you remember that, is on part of it. But we're in negotiations with the owner to buy that, take down the car wash, and open up that lock, and make it something that will attract people to the area, put in a lot of park space. People that travel on the bike path are typically high wealth individuals that travel with credit cards. And we're on one of the longest stretches in Montgomery County where there's no lodging along the bike path. 450 people come through Kennedy every year, going through, and they camp on the school property. So we're looking to give them a building with amenities, some bathrooms, things like that, simple stuff, but that will really help attract them to Montgomery County and give them a spur to downtown. As a side effect of this project, you can see up there with the marsh and the meadow, we would be installing a swale for flood protection that would help take some of the water from downtown and move it away in future flooding events. So that's an important piece of that. And by looking at all these different elements, we feel we've really created some projects that are really enticing for the grantors. We had a lot of them out when Mayor Quackenbush was still in office, and have gotten really positive responses. Next slide. Go back one. I also wanted to touch on, in addition to that project, we talked about local jobs with Cascale and the Mohawk Lifts and stuff like that. We're working on another project in Herkimer County where it's called Park of the Future. This is New York State is looking at 80,000 units in New York State of manufactured housing, trailers. Many of them are aging out, and that's the biggest form of low to moderate income housing in New York State. We acquired a trailer park that was foreclosed in Herkimer County because the owner walked away from it, and these people were going to get put out of their houses because they own the houses, but the landlord, as you know with parks, owns the land. So we are now working with Homes and Community Renewal and Bill Lake Homes, which is in Montgomery County, to develop the trailer of the future. And this is going to be a zero-use, high-efficiency unit that we're competing with there's I believe 6 other applicants. But we believe that if we can pitch this and make this, make the right, pitch to them, that we can bring not only those new housing to that trailer park, but make Bill Lake Homes and one of our local businesses the producer for these parks across the state. So we're working on a lot of these initiatives, and so while oftentimes we're here focused on the here and now and a project that's right in front of us, what I want to make clear is that we are really trying to hit our stride. Every day we're getting farther ahead. You can see on this list, we have the progress we're making on every property. I recognize that it's not going as quickly as we would always like. But I think that the chairman had mentioned last month that, there is a lot of red tape. It's like the lead testing, the asbestos testing, all this stuff, it takes time, but we are getting to the point now where we have a pipeline that is moving much more quickly, same with the demos. And that's why I wanted to mention the demo team again. Like, these are initiatives where, again, we have a lot of money to be able to leverage. We've brought in over $3.2 million in grants, and I really want to be investing in those jobs and that training and getting people in the county so that we can do that work and not have to pay, exorbitant rates to deal with these demos that we all have in our communities. So that's really what I wanted to cover. I'd be happy to answer any questions, Cheryl.
Legislator Peck.
Toga, I don't talk much during these presentations, but that you give, because I think we all feel you do a great job and provide a great service and a great resource to all of our communities. I think one of the gists of our discussion last month was have you reached a critical mass point here with how many, I mean, I look on your list here, you have 52 houses. Every one of them's got a great story about what you've done to them or what you plan to do to them, and I think that's all a wonderful thing. But is there such a thing in your mind's eye or in your organization's mind's eye where you know, a number of projects that you can afford to have going on across a 5-county area, knowing that, you know, resources are limited, money resources, the labor resources, and to make sure that these things churn a little more rapidly?
Sure.
I mean, I guess my question to you is there a number in your mind's eye that you feel you guys are capable of handling effectively and efficiently?
Sure, and that's an excellent question, and I appreciate the compliment as well as the concerns. You know, we are also trying to find that balance. And what the Attorney General has said to us is really, part of this is trying to find that right number and trying to figure out what that threshold is. And one of the advantages that we do have is that working across 5 different counties, we're really pulling from 5 different employer pools and different contractor pools. So that's really been helpful, and part of this is establishing those pools. You'll see, like, for example, Schoharie County, we're only doing, I believe, 2 projects there right now. And part of that is because they've taken time to ramp up. So, you know, but what we've done is we've been able to, you know, invest where we have been able to ramp up with the understanding that we're gonna reinvest in those counties that are further behind later. But really the hope is that as we sell properties, we're coming close to selling, we've sold a few lots and now we're coming close to selling our first 3 rehabs. What we're hoping to do, along with the revenue generated from the 550 agreements, which we've talked about before, where we'll get half of the property tax revenue from those properties that we put back on the market for 5 years, we're really hoping to see exponential growth in both hiring and also job training. We're working with Mohawk Valley Community College and New York State Department of Historic Resources to develop an associate's degree program in Utica, which we would hope to export also to FMCC, where we can take challenged youth that have either have been incarcerated, have other challenges to employment, and to train them to work on our projects. So the first wave, we're looking at doing you know, things like lead and asbestos testing, so that we can take these kids that really aren't doing anything with themselves or unable to get jobs and get them, so they'll do 2 things. It'll employ people, but it'll also help us move the pace of these projects along, where we're not having to go to Syracuse or Albany for these specialty skills like lead and asbestos or windows and things like that. But I totally understand your concern, and our goal is to essentially fund forward, you know, that growth, and we're watching very closely as we do grow.
Are you at your limit right now?
I mean, we are, I mean, that's a good question. We are moving forward with our projects. We are on target with our grants. What's that?
Nothing,
Oh, sorry.
just talking to myself.
Yeah. But I mean, I believe we are at capacity, yes. You know, I think that's a fair question, but we do have plans to hire additional staff.
So totally. Does anybody else have that?
Is there a question?
Sure.
How many people do you have on staff?
4.
4 people for the.
Mhm.
And then you say that you're doing a demo a week.
Mhm.
Now, which ones have you demoed so far?
I mean, I can give you, we can provide you with a list. I don't.
Well, you've got 25 properties here, then where any of them are coming here?
Oh, yeah, we did, demoed 39 Monroe in St. Johnsville. Next week, we're demoing 63 Center Street in Fort Plain. You know, but we're, you know.
39 Monroe?
Yes.
You've got that listed for sale, you're gonna just sell the property then?
Oh, yeah, after we demo it, we sell the lot, yeah, to the neighbors. Yeah. But that covers all of our counties, so a lot of that has been, Herkimer and Oneida County have a demo team, so we've also been working with them, and once we get them lined up for them, they're, you know, they just work their way through it, so.
Thank you.
So if I can speak, I've spoken to most of the legislators over the past several times that you've come here. A major concern is becoming that 25 properties is an extreme amount, probably more than we feel comfortable with. I'm not sure if anybody else disagrees with that. You know, we talked about the saturation point of housing and that there's more housing than there are people to supply it. And, you know, we need to reach a balance between historic significance and demolition. And we're not, I don't see us improving the tax base or the living arrangements for the county. I myself, you know that I support you very much, but I think I'll be hesitant in the next auction to bring more properties to you unless we see some really major strides.
Sure.
I mean, 25 properties is 48% of what you're handling in 5 different counties. I think we have to do more demolitions.
Sure.
I think that you're overwhelmed with the rebuilding of these properties. I really appreciate your hard work, and I want to help you, but I think if I don't tell you,
Of course.
you know, that I think that you're overwhelmed right now with the amount of properties that you have, and maybe it's time to take a look at something different, and more than concentrating on rehab is going to demolition.
Sure.
At the same time, increasing the values of the remaining properties, because as the inventory goes down, the prices will go up.
And
So-
I think about half of those are slated for demo. There are a significant amount of demos, but we're, like I said, just trying to line those up. But the point is well taken, and totally understand. But as I mentioned to Legislator Pep, part of our goal is also to expand our staff so that we can get another project manager to move them along more quickly as well.
Can you also bring us up to date on Canal Street? I know that a few legislators have had
Sure.
discussions about that we thought was going to be a relatively quick process, and it's
Yes.
turned out to be over a year.
Well, with that one, I unfortunately, we've been working with Attorney Talent in Montgomery, and he's had some health issues, so he's been behind, but we're waiting on a contract for that, as far as the transfer. The village planning board has also been down to 3 people, so they're not able to approve the subdivision. There isn't, because 2 of the people had to recuse themselves, so there's not a quorum. But I believe today they're planning to appoint 2 additional people so that they can move forward on that.
Would you see what you can do to make that a priority? and getting it
Absolutely,
done?
and yes.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
Can I
Oh,
talk?
yes, of course.
No, I'm not in the committee, so you
You're-
you don't have
Please
to
do.
ask me to. I would like to know, how many houses you've rehabbed and sold? Since you've been doing this for 5 or 6 years. In Montgomery County, I don't care about Herkimer or Ilion or anywhere else.
Yep, we've been active within the county for the last year and a half.
I know you've been active for 5 years, basically, a long time.
All right, we are about to sell our first 3 properties.
About to sell.
Yes, yep, they are in the last week.
Very good, okay,
Yeah.
so the first 3 you're gonna sell. Also, you said you've sold a lot of lots, how many lots have you sold?
I believe 6.
And how many demolitions altogether?
But those are not just in Montgomery County, that's over
All right, I don't
Yeah.
care about it, I
Yeah.
don't care about the other counties right now. How many demolitions have you done in Montgomery County and sold? None?
We have done, I believe, 3 demos so far in Montgomery County, but we are in the process of selling 2 of them right now. We have bids, we've got bids in, but we're, working with the property owners on them.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear.
Sure.
Any questions?
Well, I'll just to clarify my position, because you had mentioned it, about going through the auction process. That was my comment at the last meeting, and why I didn't go to transfer the properties to you, but it was, I think, 8-1 or 7-2, 6-2, 7-2. One of the things I just feel that it's a process that we need to go through. If someone bids $50 or $100 and you're at the auction and you bid 105, then it's out of our hands altogether until we have to approve it. Or the second thing is, if we feel, based on your recommendation, and as I've said before, I think the land banks are valuable tools, and especially for historic properties, that I don't have any problem pulling any results from the auction give to the land bank. So that, I explained it to Carl Justice, and I wanted you to know what my position was.
Sure, and I think my concern, and I think some of the other legislators I've heard as well, is that by putting properties in the auction and then later not accepting the bids, I don't want to necessarily be associated with that, because then there's this feeling of sometimes sour grapes, or that they didn't get it because of land bank or whatever, and I would also worry about like the legal side, but I mean, Megan would know more about that, but, you know, that just was my concern there, you know, is that
But we
someone.
have to approve all properties, and if it's a reasonable assumption that it's not gonna be developed the way that we want in Montgomery County, and then at least I don't have a problem going
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we have one resolution tonight. It's a resolution authorizing the county executive to sign an amended agreement with Lero Engineers Incorporated for engineering services at Exit 29 redevelopment project, economic development planning. Legislator Diamond, seconded by Legislator Kelly. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Sure.
Eric, is Eric still here?
on. I don't think so.
I just wanted to, the additional charge here of $60,058 on top of our original resolution, cost not to exceed $475, gets us up to about $530 or so. Yet I think this resolution is for $560. So I was just wondering what the, do we have fluff in there in case there's an extra? Oh, okay,
Please.
yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I talked to Megan and I actually discussed this issue because there's gonna be some things that may pop up as we still go through the ship review process. So we just wanted, so we didn't have to keep coming back to you guys every month with this, and just build a little bit of cushion.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of moving it to full legislative body?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Resolution is moved. Is there any other discussion? Can we have a motion to adjourn? Legislator Kelly, seconded by Legislator Diamond. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. It's 7:27.
Way to go.
I did it less than an hour.
Next, Joe.
All right, you second.
We want to wait and get the chairman to do that for a minute. You know, just this term.
Go get him, Joe.
I'm going to be in St. Michael's before we start.
You mean cemetery?
Yes.
My iced tea.
Three hits, three it's never ending.
It was free.
Room 10.
When he told me.
Mine wasn't free, thank you.
Warm brew.
Mr. Rizzo.
You want to take a look?
Presentation. No, keep her going, Joe.
Thank you.
What a, forget it, we got to keep your mouth shut. All right, we're going to call the Public Safety Committee meeting. Can I do it right now?
Yes, you may.
At
7:28.
she's saying 7:20, we have to go by the official time, all right? Is there any discussion, please? After that presentation, I couldn't discuss anything. Okay, let's move on to the first, nobody's discussing anything? Let's move on to the first resolution for tonight.
No, the presentation.
Now, we have a presentation by the district attorney and the assistant district attorney. How pleasant for a change. Welcome.
We didn't start yet, so.
Oh, you guys are always pleasant. Go ahead.
So I thank you for the opportunity to address the board again. So tonight, no surprise, I'm here because I need something desperately. It's been a long time coming. I need to have what I currently have as a part-time assistant district attorney made a full-time district attorney. We've been looking at counties that are comparable and not Herkimer County and some
Yes,
others.
let's concern ourselves with Montgomery.
Well, I did have to look at other counties though because Franklin County has a population pretty much the same as Montgomery County, Fulton County, same thing. They have 4 full-time assistant district attorneys. I have 1, and I have 3 part-time that are only available, seriously, part-time. They have private practices. I can't call on them and say, I have something going on in county court, but Judge Seiss, well, it won't be him any longer, wants me to do something else in Supreme Court. I need someone here immediately. I don't have that luxury. Peter Califano, who is my only full-time ADA, is assigned to Amsterdam City Court, and that is a serious full-time position in Amsterdam City Court. So we're spread very, very thin in my office. Just quickly to give you an example, if I have a felony hearing in a town court and Judge Katina has a calendar in his court, I'm one person, I can't go to both courts. So I have to weigh, do I want to anger the county court judge who I appear before every day? Or do I want to anger a town court judge who now, if I don't come for a felony hearing, is and has to, by law, allow a person who's just been arrested on a felony charge to walk out without bail. So it's extremely frustrating in my office currently. Thursday mornings, we have grand jury. Wednesdays and Thursdays, we have grand jury. Again, Judge Katina wants to have court during that time. I can't be in grand jury and be in county court at the same time. It just doesn't happen. And in order to continue to prosecute at the same level, I have to be able to present those felony cases to the grand jury. As I'm sure you all are aware, as of the first of the year, and usually New Year's is a happy time, well, New Year's is making me sick to my stomach right now because we are faced with a complete change in our discovery laws as we know them. Just to give you an idea, counties we had a meeting in Syracuse spending hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to get ready for what Albany has just dumped on us really without thinking ahead of time. An example now that I have to have some manner of letting the defense attorneys contact my witnesses or victims. I have to disclose contact information for these people. I am not comfortable giving out the address, phone number of a sex abuse victim, a rape victim, a burglary victim, any kind of victim. So we're talking about doing that in-house. It's just another layer of things that we're going to have to do. The discovery matter is just going to be a flood of paperwork. And as you know, there was approval for quite a large number of new assistant public defenders who have been taunting my staff with, we're going to paper your office to death. We are going to bury you in paperwork. And quite frankly, they will be able to do that. I will not be able to adequately prosecute these cases without another full-time assistant district attorney. That's all the bad stuff. Now the good stuff. I said to Christina Pearson, my DWI prosecutor, who will, if it's approved, eventually move into that position. We need to find some money. We need to find money someplace. We're not like the public defender's office. We don't get grants. Money isn't just coming out of Albany, hand over fist for our office. They're not funding prosecutors. They're funding defense work. So Christina did her homework and did a lot of work, and what she has come up with will be the Montgomery County Traffic Diversion Reduction Program. And the good part of this is that it has those 12 counties, I believe it is right now, that already have this program, have been generating quite a bit of revenue. And my proposal would be that we would use that revenue to pay for as much of her salary as possible. Currently, her salary is something around $54,000. What I was proposing was the same as the other assistant, so it's in the neighborhood of $75,000. So part of that we're already spending on salary. Again, when you move from part-time to full-time, I realize that there are the fringe benefits, the comp and the health insurance and that type of thing. What I would be proposing would be that the revenue from this program would be used to fund that. If in fact we made more than needed to fund her salary, what I would like to be able to do is to use it in other areas in my office. I'm one of the few district attorney's offices in the state that does not have a crime victim advocate. These people that are victims of even someone keying their car don't know what to do. They call my office, how do I handle this? Usually I'm taking the calls, or my secretary's taking the calls, but there are numerous areas of where I could use a crime victim advocate. So I'm hoping that this program generates enough revenue for us to not only fund the assistant district attorney position, but also something along those lines. So what you have in front of you is what Christina has prepared. I'm just going to turn that over to her, and again, we're looking for full board support. I believe this to be a win-win for all of us. And let me let Christina tell you all about the program, because she actually knows more about it than I do.
Okay. Good evening, I'm Christina Pearson, and as District Attorney McCoskey stated, she came to me months ago and asked me to look into any way that we can come up with some more money for the District Attorney's office that didn't require asking for money. So I looked into it and I contacted DAs from other counties within New York State. I looked online for grants and come to find out the grants that are available that we are able to apply for, we already applied for, and we do receive aid to prosecution, CARP, and there's just not too much out there for us. I did speak with District Attorney in Orleans County, and his population is about 40,000. And he said, yeah, there's no money out there for us. Do you have a traffic diversion program? I said, no, what's that? And he said, you know, it's a great thing.
Joseph and Isabel, Chairman, Legislator, District 8 Brian D. Sweet, Legislator, District 2 Roy S. Diamond, Legislator, District 3 Daniel B. Wilson, Legislator, Michael G. Penninger, Legislator, District 7.
So I contacted, the first phone call I made actually was to New Orleans County, to the district attorney there. What I did was I tried to contact the counties that had a similar population to Montgomery County. And again, he said there's no money out there in grants, a way to generate revenue for the district attorney's office. What we have in our county is a traffic diversion program. Kind of explained the program to me. I looked up every single county in New York State and come to find out there are 12 counties who have a traffic diversion program. Fulton County just implemented theirs 2 months ago. So I handed you, it looks like the packet would be like a PowerPoint presentation here. We go through that.
I can't get it to open.
That's fine, everyone should have a copy and follow along. The goals of the program is to promote safety. Every participant is required to participate in an accident prevention or driver education online course approved by DMV. It gives the drivers tools of safety and education and to promote safety. And the goals are to promote, again, driver responsibility. Every participant has to provide us with proof of insurance. So we know that motorists are insured, that promotes safety. And in cases of aggravated unlicensed operation, say someone is suspended for failing to pay a ticket, and they don't know about it, all of a sudden they're charged with AUO. Third, it's a misdemeanor. It's kind of scary to a person who's never been in trouble before. Well, this program offers the ability to have the AUO reduced from a misdemeanor to a violation. You take the online program, you clear up your suspension, of course, pay your fines, whatever court that you owed, and you provide a certificate or proof that you completed the online course, along with everything attached together in a packet, which I'll get to further, but then your ticket would be reduced to a 2-point reduction for an AUO. This
will hopefully efficiently resolve cases. A lot of tickets are traffic tickets, non-moving violations, so we can expedite that faster. Also, it would free up the time the district attorney's office, the ADAs have in dealing with the traffic tickets, as well as the court's time. Who do we need assistance from? We're going to need assistance from the treasurer, the IT department, the board, and the district attorney's office. So this is how we propose handling a ticket. So the defendant receives a ticket in the mail, or receives the ticket, and he will go online and print out an application to participate in the diversion reduction program. He'll notify the court and he'll first plead not guilty, then he'll request a 60-day adjournment of the matter with his intent to participate in the program. We have a program packet. Again, I provided you a copy, but we'll go through that. And they pay an application fee of $200. Then they we'll have a link to DMV approved accident prevention or defensive driving courses, any list. DMV lists, I believe, 5 or 6 on their website. That cost is about $30. Now, the defendant pays that on their own. That's above and beyond the $200 application fee. If the defendant is misleading or untruthful on their application regarding the charges, the traffic charges that they have listed, or provided incorrect information, then they forfeit that $200 application. However, if they provided all the information and there's a mistake, they don't actually qualify for the program because they've listed one of the offenses that are ineligible, then we would return that $200 fee. If at the end of 60 days, they have not completed the defensive driving accident prevention program, then they will also forfeit the $200. So the defendant submits all paperwork to the DA's office. The copy of the application, the $200 money order or certified bank check, a copy of their driver's abstract. We're going to request a self-addressed envelope to make it easier and less expense to mail a response. The program that they are going to be attending through DMV, and they send that to our office. We would have someone in the district attorney's office who would be assigned to input the information, review the application, determine that the applicant is eligible for the program, and then approve it. The defendant would get notice that they've been approved, and they have the 60 days to take the online course and provide us proof of a certificate, a proof of completing that course, and when that is returned to us, when we have received all of that program, or all of the information, including the proof of the certificate of attending that defensive driving program or accident prevention program, then we would send a letter to the court stating that this defendant has completed our program, and also provide the court with the certificate, and we are requesting that the court dismiss the vehicle and traffic violation entirely. And so the participant receives no points, but has also received some driver education, safety, accident prevention, and then the $200 application fee goes into a trust. What we are proposing is that 60% of the application fee would go directly to the towns and local municipalities, the courts.
in lieu of a fine that they might have received had the defendant pled to a 2-point speeding ticket. And the balance, 40%, would go into an account designated to the district attorney's office to help fund programs and salary. So, let's see here. Okay, so as far as the diversion part of the program, those are offenses where upon completion of the program, the ticket would be dismissed. For a the reduction part of the program would be a list of eligible offenses, and I have provided that in the second packet, second page. So speeding in excess of 20 miles an hour would be eligible for a reduction. Cell phone violation, reduction. AUO, reduction. And you'll also see there those offenses that are ineligible. So if you fail to move over for an emergency vehicle, I'm so sorry, you're not going to be accepted into that program, and we are actually not even reducing that ticket. So the DA's office would have some discretion in reviewing the application to decide whether or not the defendant would be accepted into the program. So I kind of told you earlier, I started out 12 counties in New York State offer this reduction program. If you look at Franklin County, their population is about 51,000. In 2000, they don't have any major throughway. And in 2018, their revenue was $40,000. Chenango County, the population is about 50,000 people. 2018 was their first year implementing that program. They have about 16 miles of interstate running through 2 of their municipalities, and they generated $273,000. Orleans County is a population of 40,000, approximately 41, and in 2018 they generated about 160,000. I don't want to get your hopes up or anything, but like Broome County, population of 191,000, they made $1.3 million in 2017. And they have a lot of programs offered through the DA's office, but obviously we're not looking at that figure. So again, the application fee would be a flat fee of $200, 60%, so $120 would go to the town or the village, $80 to the district attorney's office, or allocated towards the district attorney's office. So if you look on the page distribution of the application fee, it kind of breaks that down. So whoever is given the task of managing the applications, receiving the funds, would keep an Excel spreadsheet and log the defendant, what court, and the application fee collected. And we would also deposit the funds into a trust. So this is where we would need to create a separate trust for this program. And those monies would be held there until it's determined that the defendant has completed the program within the 60 days and provided, or 60 days has expired and we don't have a certificate, then that money's forfeited. But also, we need to determine whether we need to return the funds because they've applied and they shouldn't have. So we are proposing that we would do a quarterly report to the treasurer to authorize the distribution made to the local municipalities. And so what we are going to need from the IT department is, I guess, an initial setup of a addition to our web page of a link to the traffic diversion program. And within that, we would have the application to be able to click and print that out. So when you go online, you just print it out. It has a list of what you need to include with the application to make it easy. We would also like a link to DMV, to the approved courses
by DMV who they accept for reductions. We would also like an email created, traffic diversion at CO.Montgomery, what have you, because we don't want to take phone calls. The office gets a lot of calls already, so we would like to divert any applicant, if they have any questions about this program, to email the coordinator or whoever at this email address. Again, requested of the treasurer's office would be a trust account and to distribute those funds quarterly or is what we're proposing. We are requesting that of the Magistrates Association to work with the DA's office. We can help maybe do a presentation before the local judges on how we hope the program to work or what our intentions are, and let them know that if they have any questions, to feel free to contact us. And again, from the Board of Supervisors, also to let the town, village, and county officials know that you guys are behind this program, and you hope to have their cooperation. So what we're trying not to do, we're not trying to eliminate clerks or judges. We're not trying to take anyone's position. We're not trying to reduce town or village revenue. And we're not trying to reduce any overtime. What this program does is it educates drivers. We ensure that all drivers have a valid driver's license, insurance, and this also guarantees a collection of funds before, right up front. Lots of times on vehicle and traffic violations, the maximum fine on a lot of the moving violations are $150. Local judges don't always, they rarely do max fines on their tickets. And when they do set fines, lots of times they are unable to collect on them, or it takes them quite some time to collect the fines. This ensures they get the money right up front. And if you are thinking about, okay, so $150 is the max fine on, like I said, quite a few, the majority of vehicle and traffic violations. We are saying we're going to give you 60% of $200. That's $120 guaranteed right away. The state, when you collect fines, the state only allocates to the local municipalities about 67%, I believe, of the of the moving violations. And that works out, if the judge were to assess a fine of $150, that works out to about $100.50 going to the local municipality. So what we're suggesting is we're actually going to give you more. We're going to give you $120 guaranteed money. So we'll go to this second packet here. And I kind of already touched on the first page the purpose and what our intent is to promote safe driving, driver financial responsibility, and efficiency in prosecution. The second page again is the ineligible offenses. However, there are some offenses that we would consider a reduction for. So the third page actually states out the instructions for applying to the program. I think they're pretty clear. I wrote this out to maybe just take this and implement and just go ahead and put it on the website. But it gives you the instructions, copy of your traffic ticket, your automobile insurance card, stamped addressed envelopes, the payment, and it also explains if you fill this out inaccurately or if you're not truthful, it also lets you know that you are not going to be refunded that money, it's going to be forfeited. And it also, the following page, after acceptance. So after accepted, it lists the details of the program, on what would happen, what is going to happen, and
further explains the program. Now, the following page I have is titled Montgomery County District Attorney Traffic Diversion Reduction Program Application. So that is the actual proposed application that I typed up for submission here. And so we have the basic information, but we also have, again, a reminder to be eligible with this policy, you need to have not committed or have not applied to this program within the past 12 months. Obviously, if someone's taken has a 6-point speed and they want it reduced to no point violation, or actually dismissed, then they're going to take the program. But if they get another speeding ticket within 3 months, they're not just going to be able to pay $200 and take the course over again. They're going to be hit harder. So you're only eligible to participate in the program once every 12 months. Again, there's also, there was no motor vehicle accident involving someone other than me. I have not answered and pleaded not guilty to the ticket. I have answered and pleaded not guilty. I have not missed any scheduled court dates. We're not trying to get people to apply for the program and just never show up or talk to the courts. We want the courts to be involved and aware of this program, and we want the defendant to know that you have to let the court know and request any adjournments and do that. That's on you. Okay? So that's the complete application that I had proposed, and then I have submitted a proposed resolution, and that's the final 2 pages. I'm also asking, I believe, I haven't drafted, we've discussed it, a sample closing letter to close the file, a letter to the court stating that yes, the defendant has completed the course, here's a copy of the certificate, and asking the court to withdraw the charges. In effect, the court is going to be closing the case. So that's going to be on the court as well. Okay? Any questions?
Mr. Pett.
Christina, thank you for a detailed presentation. And DA McCoskey, thank you I commend you for looking to implement a program that will create revenue to help offset the expense. I got, one of my questions would be, when do you plan to ask for this? Will it be part of your budget next year when you're going to say, this is what my new revenue line item is going to be for this program, and here's how I'm going to offset the cost of making one of my DAs full-time? Obviously, it's going to also deflect some of the activity that's coming through your desk in your office, so that's another benefit to gain from it here. But and also we've cited how much revenue it's generated in other counties of like population. But I'm hoping that we have some internal data about the frequency of these occurrences here, so that we can, the number of these types of occurrences here on a typical basis in Montgomery County, so that we can establish a figure, our 40% share of this, for a budget line item to help offset the position. Is that data available? How it works
It
here?
may be available. Kevin Snell ran some figures for me today. He did not run the vehicle and traffic, which is what this was. He ran felonies and misdemeanors. So you always have less felonies, more misdemeanors, and a lot more vehicle and traffic. Our vehicle and traffic up to today's date, our misdemeanors rather, are up over close to 900. Felonies are over 300 right now. I would say we're probably well over 1,000 in the vehicle and traffic. It's every day. I mean, I have one part-time girl who it's all day, every day for her. Because we fortunately do have the New York State Thruway running end to end in our county. So that garners a lot of revenue for us, not for us, for the county, for the towns.
So,
I can get you some figures as to.
well, I just think, if when a resolution comes our way, some of the math behind it, here's the type of revenue we expect our 40% share of this to be, based on typical volumes of these infractions, and here's how much it's going to create for our office, our DA office in our county, our 40% take, and here's how it's gonna offset the establishment of a full-time assistant.
I will,
Something of that nature.
okay, I can't be locked in on a figure because
No,
these people have the opportunity to opt out of it.
Yeah.
And when they opt out of it, my office's position will be, you will not get a reduction below 2 points. So it behooves you to participate in our program. And just to make it very clear, there are certain things that will never, failure to move over, we've had 2 fatalities in this county. No way will my office ever reduce one of those tickets. So that's on the not to be reduced.
Ineligible, right.
Right. So, but I can pull some figures together and give you,
That's fine.
in a perfect world, if they all participated, this is what it would be.
And
Yes,
what's the
absolutely.
timing? Are you looking to just implement it in your budget submission for the fall to do it next year, or are you looking for a more immediate result here?
Christina and I discussed a more immediate result from the board here, or passage of the resolution. October, we were kind of hoping to kick it
Depending
in.
on IT,
Right.
how fast can we get it added to the website? I have, like I said, I did draft things to hopefully just turn it over.
Okay.
If I may just add to that, and you just mentioned it. If and when that resolution is passed and whatever the effective date is, I have to have the county treasurer and IT, particularly IT, on board well before then to say, this is a go on this date.
You gotta flip a switch on it.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Martin?
2 questions. Do we need an MOU with each court
No.
to get on board with this?
Oh, I'm sorry, no. It's the luxury of being a prosecutor, we can decide whether or not we prosecute a case or we don't prosecute a case. So,
So, in order to get them to sign up, like,
they don't sign anything.
so if we're going to offer the $200 fee and they get $120, are you taking away court surcharges and things that they would be?
They don't even get the court surcharges. They're not court surcharges, they're mandatory surcharges from the state of New York. They don't see those ever. So what we're giving them is more than what they would be getting in fines, and they're getting it instead of bringing the defendant back in every month. Can you pay anything on your fine? So they're going to be able to close their books on that case relatively quickly.
And what happens when the money is forfeited? Does the same proration happen?
Same split.
Yeah, that's one thing I found when I talked to the different counties participating in the program, how they came up with a number to allocate to the towns, because we definitely don't want to take any money from the local municipalities. And the number pretty much in every county all across the board was 60%. And that is a little bit, how they stated, a little bit more than what they would receive in their percentage breakdown from the fines that they receive from the state. And again, the issue is with collection, a lot of the local municipalities, they have, thousands and thousands of dollars of fines just waiting to be collected, and which are very difficult to collect. And here, this program, they get the money as soon as the 60 days are up or the completion of the program.
Legislator Sweet?
A couple of questions. How is the offender notified about this program? So I get a ticket, how do I know to go to this program?
So the district attorneys, ADA, the ADAs in the local courts, they have an ADA day, or traffic day. Peter Califano, he does Amsterdam. Lorraine Diamond, she does Glen. I mean, we have, I stated in Chenango County, they have 16 miles of interstate. I think they have over 50 miles. And
So I'm gonna get a
more
ticket,
than
I'm gonna get a court date, I'm gonna go to court, and then they're gonna say, hey, if you wanna participate in this
The
program.
court is not, the ADA,
Okay.
I don't think the court is not
Courts
able
can't-
to.
courts
Okay, so you're gonna do the ADA, ADA is gonna say, you can either go to court or you can do this program.
Or lots of times, on tickets, don't they just contact Kim in the office and.
Yeah, they'll call, they call the court says, oh, call the DA's office, and that's that poor girl who's doing traffic all
And
day
she can
long.
direct them to the website, because we do have a lot of out-of-state vendors and.
So they wouldn't have to actually go to the.
Exactly. They can call, go to the website. If they do show up, then we can direct them or even have applications there. But I would probably direct them to reduce costs. I'm not sure if you would be okay with having a packet or a stack of applications for the ADAs.
Which would be fine. But the other way they can do this is, particularly out of state, they get a ticket. Sometimes they're like, oh God, I'm not coming back to Montgomery County. I don't even know where I was to start with. But they'll sign not guilty, mail it in. The court will then they usually contact them, and the court may or may not say, you can contact the DA's office, and then we advise them that way as well.
And my second question is, what's the downside? What's the downside of the program?
I mean, as far as
The downside is,
work.
somebody in my office is going
Yeah.
to have to monitor that.
Yeah.
Someone's going to have to give a quarterly report to the county treasurer. Someone's, I mean,
So it's
someone.
gonna free up more time for your staff.
Yes,
Yeah.
and if I have a full-time person,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
gonna, that can be done that way as a coordinator as well. So the downside is, yes, someone has to be assigned to that program.
But you're gonna be, hopefully you're gonna be generating more revenue to help offset.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I think the only downside would be that the district attorney's office is going to be taking on more work, but again, for hopeful benefit. I don't think that.
did you have a question? Legislator Lyman? Just one thing, a clarification, we're county legislators, I'm not supervising anymore. The other thing, the question for our attorney, would he need a resolution?
Yeah, we would want to do a resolution, and we would want to discuss with Sean and get, make sure we have the trust account authorized in that resolution and make sure we're timed up.
I was just thinking that's more of in-kind services, and they could discuss that with the county executive, as far as the IT and the treasurer, whereas, I mean, I don't have a problem, I support the resolution, but I don't really want to get involved in the DA's business.
Because this is creating a countywide program, a resolution's a good way to go.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Legislator Dave?
I like everything I heard. I support this resolution. The only thing I would suggest is you get the $200 bank check, maybe credit card. You go to motor vehicle, you use your credit card now.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's,
there's fee, there might be a fee attached to the credit card. I'm not sure that we were,
Yeah,
a
but-
lot of the counties had the certified bank check but
I first of all, I could say a lot of things about that, but I don't have the capability in my office to be taking credit cards.
that does.
Well, but the problem then is now it's going from his office to my office, and rather than.
No, I just find it very convenient at DMV now. I can do everything with a credit card.
But then what if, if we were to refund your money because, you applied for the program, but you told us truthfully of this offense, but this offense doesn't qualify, now I have to refund you that money. Do I have to say your credit card information and refund it to your credit card? I'm not sure.
I quite honestly don't want to have one more element of technology that someone in my office doesn't know how to use right now. We're struggling to get computers put in our office that have been sitting in the county for over a year. So, I don't want to add to it a credit card swiping at my office either, because that would involve them probably coming in or doing it that way.
Well, I was suggesting that because you could do that right online.
True.
When you get the application, it's already paid, Something to think about.
Absolutely.
Baby steps, right?
Absolutely.
Any other questions,
Yeah,
Legislator
one
Martin?
more for the DA. And your proposal, are you going to maintain the 3 assistant DAs?
or you're eliminating,
That would be eliminating one part-time, creating a full-time, so then I would have just 2 part-time.
and you're putting that in your budget?
Yes, yes,
And that's for next year, or are you looking to do it now?
for 2020, so we
Okay.
started January 1,
Okay.
so yes. Baby steps, I'm not gonna ask for another part-timer yet, so.
I like the way you work.
Ladies, it was a very good presentation. Any other questions? We thank you for coming, and
Thank you.
you gave us an awful lot to think about.
Okay,
All
any
right,
questions, you know where to find us.
Thank you very, very much, okay?
Bye-bye.
You got your job cut out for you to get it ready. Okay, let's go to resolutions, and we're going to resolution number 1 would be resolution authorizing the county executive to sign a service agreement with Spectrum Business for the district attorney's office data processing. Do I have a sponsor? Legislator Diamond? Legislator Pep? All in favor of this?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Hello? Oh,
You're the chairman.
it passed. No, you gotta say it passed. That's it.
Oh, during committee, I usually don't.
You don't do that? Okay,
Yes.
fine. Okay, thank you. Next resolution, let's go, let's move ahead. The resolution authorizing the county executive to sign an agreement with the general, let's see, we're gonna sign this with the general code, Montgomery County Local Government Records Management Grant, data processing. Do I have a sponsor? Legislator Sweet, Legislator Dan. All in favor of this?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? It passed.
Move to the full
Move to
legislature.
the full legislature. Okay, very good. And thank you for correcting me. Okay, resolution authorizing county executive to sign a contract agreement for the new telephone system, data processing. Do I have a sponsor? Legislator Diamond. Legislator Pep. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Me. Is there any abstentions? Okay, move it to full legislature. Last resolution. Resolution amending 2019 operating budget, equipment replacement, emergency management. Do I have a sponsor? Legislator Dan. Legislator Pep. Okay, is there any discussion? I'm sorry I'm moving along a little bit fast, so guys. Huh?
Don't be sorry.
Okay, all opposed? Any, all for it?
Aye.
All in favor, and any abstentions? None on that resolution. Is there any other discussions tonight?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Legislator Diamond and seconded by Legislator Dan. All in favor of that?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? And thank you very much. And the district attorney is gone, so I can't thank her, so thank you. So,
9:27 is my time that
what's that?
I guess we would be here till 9:27.
Way under.
Let's take a half hour recess here.
Well, we're not in anything.
All right, we'll call the Education and Government Committee to order at 8:13, and I hate to disappoint everyone, but I don't have any presentations for tonight. Unless there's someone in the audience who would like to step up.
You know, we're here, we've been here for a while.
Yeah. All right, first thing on the agenda is discussion. Anyone from the committee or legislators have anything to discuss pertaining to this committee? If not, we'll move right on to the resolutions. First resolution is a resolution authorizing the county executive to execute change order with Tri-Valley Plumbing and Heating, C2 Plumbing Contractor, FMCC Campus, Labs, and Classrooms Phase 2 project. I need a sponsor.
Sponsor.
Legislator Pett, Legislator Wilson, second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained? Excuse me, I'm gonna abstain from this.
Same.
So we'll move that on to the full legislature. Second resolution is a resolution authorizing the county executive to execute change order with Tri-Valley Plumbing and Heating, C3 HVAC contract for FMCC campus labs and classrooms, Phase 2 project. Any sponsor? Legislator Diamond, second. Legislator Peck. Discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I abstain. So move that on to the full legislature. The next resolution is a resolution authorizing the county executive to execute change order with Fisher Scientific Company LLC for FMCC campus labs and classrooms, Phase 2 project. Need a sponsor? Legislator Peck, second. Legislator Wilson. Discussion. There's no discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I abstain. Move it to the full legislature. The next resolution is a resolution authorizing county executive to sign agreement, continuation of the CLEO agreement between the county of Montgomery and the counties of Fulton and Schoharie. I'll sponsor. I need a second. Legislator Peck, discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Move to the full legislature. Next resolution is a resolution confirming appointment of representative to the Fulton, Montgomery, and Schoharie County Workforce Development Board made by the county executive. I need a sponsor. Legislator Diamond, second. Legislator Wilson. Discussion?
Mr. Chair, I believe this is the person we're inserting there? There, okay.
Actually, in the resolution, it should say Aaron, not Eric. Under the resolve clause. Do you see?
Oh, yes, okay.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried. We'll move it on to the full board. Next resolution is a resolution amending 2019 operating budget election charges for elections. I'll sponsor. I need a second. Legislator Peck, discussion?
Is there supposed to be a dollar sign in the first whereas?
Nope.
Nope. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So carried. The next resolution is a resolution adopting introductory law, local law D, local law 4 of 2019, a local law providing partial tax exemption on real property owned by members of volunteer fire companies or volunteer ambulance services and the unremarried spouses of deceased members of the volunteer fire companies or volunteer ambulance services. I'll sponsor.
Who's sponsor?
Sir Kelly, second. Any discussion? Sir Executive?
Yeah, I just, I wanted to bring to your attention, since this was recorded, we've got some feedback and I just wanted to address that issue. So one of the questions that we had was if a volunteer firefighter does not live within the area in which he serves, maybe he lives in, the city of Amsterdam, but he serves in Cranesville or vice versa. Under this law, they do not qualify for it. And we looked into it, I had talked with Megan. That is the way the enabling legislation was done at the state, so we don't have the authority to change that now. But it's something we can talk about in the future, but I just didn't know if you guys got some comments, or if you guys had some comments about that. And if you did, that's the answer. With the way, the supervisors requested this from the state, and then the state passed it, and this is the implementation of it, we're not able to change that. And just while I got you, real quick, given this is a fourth local law, I just wanted to make you aware that we just had an intern that completed work in the office and just went through and pulled every local law going back to when, Megan, since we...
The earliest local law enacted by the county, which is in the 1920s.
In the 1920s,
made copies of them, created a spreadsheet that Megan can research, and then we can pull up digitally. So it's going to be, Megan can tell you a lot more about it, but great project that got done, and I just wanted to make you aware of it while we were taking up the local law. So 100 years from now, they'll be able to go back and look at it instead of pulling through the books that we've had to do in the past. So, but if there's any other questions on the resolution, please feel free.
Any further discussion on this resolution? Not all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried. Next resolution is a resolution in support of litigation opposing the green light law. Any sponsor?
Sponsor.
Mr. Kelly, second, legislator Pell. Discussion? Legislator Diamond?
As in the previous things that were brought up, I like to keep politics out of the legislative office and address things that really have to do with Montgomery County instead of a statewide thing. This basically is because Washington didn't do their job as far as immigration, now it's sent down to the state and then they impose some things on us. What I would say is I can't imagine any illegal alien getting a driver's license knowing that under this climate that ICE could be knocking at your door as soon as you register, and kids put in cages or whatever. Previous months, we, the right wing here supported the Second Amendment, they supported the NRA. Now it's immigration, and now I'm thinking next month we're going to build a wall around Montgomery County and have Fulton County pay for it. How far are we going to go there with this? So I definitely oppose something like this.
Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Abstained? Move to the full legislature. And the last resolution is a resolution confirming appointment made by the county executive to the Fulton Montgomery Community College Board of Trustees. I'll sponsor. Need a second?
I'll second.
Sir Kelly? Any discussion?
Chair, I'd just say, I don't think the executive could have picked a better person to serve on the FMCC board. They're very proactive with FMCC, Roberta and her husband, and I think it'll be a great addition. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other discussion or comments? Not all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So carried. Anything else come before this committee? Not?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, second. Legislator Wilson. 8:22. That's how you do it, we're telling you.
Yeah, watch how Pep does it. It's gonna be a short.
Thank you, everybody.
Short and sweet.
Take care, guys.
All right, I'd like to call the Budget and Finance Committee to order at 8:23, remind that it's Committee of the Whole. Any items for discussion? I think we've been discussed out tonight. So moving on to the resolutions, our first resolution is a resolution increasing petty cash account amount and starting fund amount for DMV. Do I have a sponsor? Legislator Diamond, second Legislator Sweet, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. And our second and final resolution approving abstract of audited claims. Do I have a sponsor? Legislator Wilson, a second.
Second.
Legislator Diamond, all in favor?
Aye.
You want to?
Yes,
Yes.
before you adjourn, I wanted to just really quick update on something for you.
Sure, absolutely. Feel free.
Okay, so I just wanted to keep everybody up to speed. We did have our team meeting related to DSS finances, and it went really well today. We're gonna have a resolution as an add-on next week. I'll circle back with you, but I just want to let you know we're making really good progress. I feel really good about the direction we're heading.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, motion to adjourn.
Did you guys vote on the resolution?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Legislator Kelly, second. Do I have a second to adjourn?
No, I
Somebody,
won't keep
anybody?
going. I'll keep going.
Legislator Diamond, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.